Hi and welcome from your ITC Geeks. My name's Trapper Hallam, and today we're going to talk about how to run a Teams meeting. In this third part of our video series on Teams meetings, we're going to talk about running a meeting. So we're going to go over the options that are inside of the actual meeting. If you need to see how to create a meeting, get into a meeting, or if you want to jump ahead into one of the other parts of the series, go ahead and click in the upper right hand corner where the playlist will be up there for you now. We're going to go ahead and jump right into the Participants tab and take a look at all the options that we have available. Here we are in our meeting, and as you can see in the upper right hand corner, there's two little people. That's going to be our Participants tab. It's where we're going to manage the members of our team and some of our options. So let's go ahead and click that open now. As you can see, it pops open on the right hand side, and we have a few things that we can do. So right here, the very first thing that you see is that you can type names in here for anybody inside of your user group, and it'll find them. It should be attached to like a global address, so you just type their names in and you should be able to find them. So let's just try that out really quick. So if we type in Courtney, you can see there's one of my counterparts, and we could add her to the meeting by clicking on her name. And then that will ask her to join our meeting. We don't want to do that for this, but just to show you how it works. All right, next we have the share invite button here. If we click this, you're going to go ahead and see it's going to give you a spot where you can copy the link to this meeting and share that out. So that's useful if you need to send it to people outside of your organization, or if you just jumped into your meeting and you want to share it with your students and you forgot where the link is. Here's one of the locations that you can get that link. All right, let's go ahead and close that. And then down here underneath, it'll say in this meeting. If you see anybody here, it'll be listed there. Now, if there was someone invited to the meeting that didn't show up under in this meeting, they would say optional people or people suggested below that. And since we didn't add anybody, there will be nobody there for us. But that's kind of the overview. But there's a couple other options here that we should take a peek at. If we go up here to the three dots and we click on that there, you'll notice that it says Manage Permissions. Now, this is exactly what you did before you set up the meeting, especially if you watched the other video. It should pop up for us a window that will show us all of our meeting options that we set up prior to the meeting. So that's another place that you can go ahead and change them. This shows up in a few different spots, so this is just one of those locations. Also under the three dots, we'll find Download Attendance List. I can't do this here because I don't have anybody in the meeting yet, but when you had a meeting and it takes place with people that you work with or others with your students, you can go ahead and click this and it'll show when they entered, when they leave, if they came back after they left. It'll show a detailed report with everything time-stamped right on there. Very useful for the classroom. And the last part, and a new part, which I enjoy quite a bit, is Lock the Meeting. In the past, because meetings weren't locked, people could request over and over again to come into your meeting, which could be annoying. But with this new option, once you have all your students in and you've called all the ones that aren't in, you can lock the meeting. What this does is it stops all those requests and no one else can come into your meeting and you can teach or carry on with your meeting without any interruptions. That's a fantastic feature, one of my favorites. All right, with that being said, let's do one more thing with this participants list. I'm going to go over here and have a couple of people try to join our meeting so we can see what it looks like when they want to come in from the lobby, because this lobby is locked. Okay, so I've gone ahead and had a couple people try to join our meeting, and you can see here that it pops up with a little window, a dialog box indicating in your meeting that, hey, someone would like to get in. Remember that feature, that locked meeting? This would not occur if we had locked our meeting. So let's go ahead and view the lobby, or again, it's going to show us the participants pane. And then you can see right here, waiting in the lobby, two people trying to get into our meeting. And since we set up our lobby to block them until we approve them, we get the choice now. And it's pretty straightforward. We can admit all of them, or we can look at them and admit one by one with a checkbox or a red X. Let's take a closer look at who's in our lobby. First, we have a suspicious genuine student, hey, and our good friend Ryan Reynolds. Let's go ahead and ignore the suspicious one and let our good friend in for the rest of this demo. We'll go ahead and admit him, and you'll see that he comes right in, and now he's under the tab that says in this meeting. So you can see him right here. And then with him in right here, we get a few more options. So we can mute the participant if he wasn't already muted, but it's Ryan Reynolds, and he knows to mute himself when he goes into a meeting at first. We can also pin him which means that it'll put him up here if he had his video on, and he'd be pinned to the top. So no matter what happened, who came or left, or what screen we showed, we would always see him up at the top. And chances are we'd like to do that. So we can even click it, but it won't show anything because he doesn't have his camera on. Let's go back and look at a couple other options there. We can spotlight him for everyone. This means that if we click this, everyone will see his screen. This is great for sharing with a class if you have somebody presenting or a student that needs to speak their truth or their mind. You can pin them up there for spotlight them for a minute, and then you can unspotlight him when he's done. You can also make him an attendee as opposed to a presenter, which means it would take away his rights to be able to share his screen and mute other people. And lastly, you can remove him from the meeting, but we would never do that to Ryan Reynolds. All right, with that done, I think we've covered almost everything that needs to be talked about inside of the attendance tab. So next, we're going to move over to the chat tab. Let's do that now. Okay, now we're going to check out the chat. So if you navigate up to the top of your Teams meeting, you'll see the little chat bubble here. And if you click on it, it'll open up with a little panel, as you saw I had open there. And now in here is all the conversation that will take place, if it's turned on, for your team meeting. Now, also in here, you'll notice right away, this is an existing demo, so I have a couple things in here. If I record a meeting and then I reuse that meeting later, you'll see that recording inside of the chat. Additionally, you'll also see it in the chat outside of the meeting. All of this is retained outside of this meeting. You can get your attendance reports right from this chat, and again, also in the other one. But any other conversations that take place or files that are shared are all put within this chat and can always be accessed later through the chat option in Teams, not in the meeting. Okay, so there's not a lot to the chat itself in terms of options, but let's go through what it looks like to use the chat and some of the features that you have for that. So if we scroll down here to the bottom where it says type a new message, that's where you're going to get your chatting box where you can put all your information. Now, if you don't click any other button and you just type in here and you say hi or how are you doing, you will get the ability to just type in and then hit enter, and it'll send that into the chat. So it limits you on what you can put in there. But let's explore a little bit. If we look at this first little button down here, this is like the rich editor. So if we click on this, what it does is it opens up a new menu within our chat box. It also changes a little bit of the behaviors. If we type a message in here now, if I type in hi and I hit enter, it will not send it. You'll notice that it's spaced down one place, and I can hit enter, and now I can really kind of create a text-rich environment where I can customize the message to the way that I want it to be. I'm going to take a second here. I'm going to put some stuff in there, and we'll take a look at some of these options as I do it. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I've added a few things to the chat so you can see what it looks like. Let's go ahead and take a look. Now, if you can see here with the rich text editor, I can do things like bold, italicize, I can underline, strike through, highlighter, change font color, change font size. I can add headers, heading 1, 2, 3, 4, and a couple of more. I can indent, I can do a bullet list, I can do a numbered list, I can do a quote, and then finally you can insert links in here and then customize the tag. So this is a link to our YouTube channel, and then I can customize the name so it says ITC Geeks YouTube instead of the long URL. So you can see that you can really kind of create some very specific and rich text within the chat so that it's not just the back and forth messages. Don't forget in here that it's also very useful when using the chat to use the @ sign. And these are what we call @ mentions. And when you do an @ sign, you can do anybody inside of that meeting and or chat, whatever it happens to be. And it'll pull up people that you are in your organization or specifically in the meeting. So you see here I put an @ sign, and Corey, Courtney, and Jerry were all invited to this meeting originally. And so it pulls their names up and it says, would you like to mention one of these? So if I click on one of them, so if I click on Corey here, it'll make his name blue. It looks like a link actually, but what it'll do is it'll put in his notifications that I've specifically asked him to look at this message at this spot. So that's what that @ mention does. So if you're chatting inside of this Teams meeting here, and you want to get somebody's name, use an @ mention. If they're not in the meeting, they'll still be notified. So it's very useful. If you have students that aren't in the meeting and you're giving out some important information, you may want to put @ mention their name to draw them to this, right? So that's a nice little feature. Let's take a look at the rest of the other features that we have within our chat. So we have importance as well. So if we click on importance, you can see that we can make it important or urgent. These notifications, will put them into your action center as in they stand out. So you can use that. So you can see there, we can now make this an important message. It'll also list it as important. Of course, this one's important. You can insert files by clicking on here. So this will connect directly to your OneDrive, or you can upload them from your computer. It'll put the file right inside of the chat and it'll stay there so everybody always has access to that particular file. Great for worksheets or assignments, or if you're sharing a file document that you're all working on within this meeting. Moving over, we have some of the fun stuff. So we've got emojis. In here, emojis are a great way to portray emotion within your chat. I encourage using them. I think it lightens the chat and it keeps it a nice atmosphere within there when you're chatting, so you can really kind of portray what you feel. So, and you can search for these. If you're looking for a thumbs up, you can search for thumbs and it'll populate as you type the actual word for thumbs up. Next over, we have GIFs. GIFs are also another way to convey emotions and feelings without, typing them down, because, typing text is usually kind of dry and may not convey the right message. But you can use that with the GIF. There's lots of GIF in here. The important part about these is that these are all GIFs that are approved. They're all safe search GIFs, if you will, meaning that you're not going to find anything inappropriate in here. So you won't find everything, but you will find ones that you can use to have some fun with your classes or just your meeting. The next one over on the list is stickers, another type of way to have fun within your chat or kind of liven it up a little bit. You can see that they have lots of different categories. You can click on marching ducks or cool creature or cool careers. One of the brand new ones that they just added and lots of fun is the Clippy, back from the old Windows days. And he will have lots of little different stickers that you can use within there. So we can say, hey, that's nice. So we can add that in there. And then of course there's a 3 dots here. You can see that those are really all of your options. There is other extensions, which just means apps that we can add on, but that's a different video. We're not going to go into depth on that. But if we're ready to send this message, we click the little paper airplane looking thing and it should put it right inside of the chat. Okay, you can see here that it's marked important. You can see the red exclamation point. You can see all the fonts and different things that we did with the chat editor. And then if you scroll down, you can see our sticker and even our link contained within there. And you can see it even pulls in some of the YouTube metadata so you can see what that link looks like. So with all of that kind of done, you've seen the inside and outside of the chat and the features that exist within it. Let's talk about a couple more features that we'll find within your basic use of Teams meeting. Okay, so the next feature we're going to talk about in this video is up here in the chat. Next to it is the reactions. Now, reactions can be disabled in the meeting options. So if you don't see them, chances are you disabled them. But if you do have them turned on, what you'll see are these social messaging type icons on here, something you might see on like a Facebook or something like that. When you click these, they flash on the screen. You'll see them next to your image. So will everyone else. They're not permanent. They only stay for a second, but it's a nice way to add some emotion and some feeling into your meetings. So that you can disable those if you choose. Under this same option up here, you'll also get the hand raising. That'll be there regardless if you turn reactions on or not. So the way that hand raising works is it's a cue for a Q&A during your Teams meeting. So if you click it, what will happen is that you'll see an indication that someone has raised their hands. In this case, me. You'll notice that over here on the participants tab that we've already covered. You'll notice that there's an orange 1 on there. The more people that raise their hands changes that number. Let's click in there to see what that looks like. So if we click the participants tab, you'll see over here now under my name or next to my name is my hand being raised. And everybody that raised their hands after me will come in order right in that queue. Now you have the ability to answer that question in your meeting, and then you can ask them to lower their hand, or if you click on the 3 dots, you can lower that for them if they forgot. All right, the next feature we're going to talk about is the ability to turn your camera and mic on and off. Now additionally, they've added some nice new features here. If you hover over the video camera icon, you'll get a preview of what your camera would look like if you had it on. I don't. And you also have the ability to change your camera if you have other cameras connected to your computer. Now, lastly, you also get the ability to blur your background or add some of those background effects that are pre-uploaded or upload your own. The final thing we should talk about in Teams meetings in this video is how to leave the meeting. In a Teams meeting, there's 2 ways to leave. 1, you can actually leave the meeting, and 2, you can end the meeting. So if you come up here to the red bar at the top, it says leave. If you click that, what will happen is that the meeting will still take place while you're gone, which means that anybody that's in the meeting or that can get into the meeting, if the lobby's not locked, we'll be able to have a continuing meeting. This is not great for teachers with students being unattended. So as a teacher, you're most likely going to want to click on the drop-down arrow and choose End Meeting. What this will do is it will end the meeting, kicking everybody out. And if you have the meeting locked as in the lobby, they can no longer get in. Actually, I don't believe they can get in either case because you've ended that particular meeting. And not until you start it up again will they be able to join. With that, it brings our video about the basics of Teams meeting to a close. Now, we covered the participants pane where you can add people and see the attendance list. We also covered how to work with the chat and get the best messages out there that we could, even with some fun stuff in it. And we covered our reactions with hand raising, and finally how to leave a meeting and the best way to end a meeting. So we thank you for viewing our video. Don't forget, this is a continuing series about Teams meetings, specifically for teachers and classrooms and anybody else. But in the next coming videos, we'll talk about how to work with some of the more specific features of Teams, like breakout rooms, the 3-dot menu and all of the options underneath, and even how to share your screen. So if you'd like to see those videos, make sure that you like and subscribe to get those immediately as they come out. All right. Well, again, we'd like to thank you for watching our video. Hopefully you learned something, and until next time, we'll see you.